This is the inventory tracking system for ACME Corp Food Bank. This is our project for this semester. So this is our team. This is our team logo. We called ourselves Team One. So project overview. Our client needs was to have some sort of manual inventory tracking system that is error-proof and efficient. And they have a need for a secure automated system to manage inventory and track expiration dates. Our main goal is to build this application and build a robust and responsive inventory tracking system that's accessible on the web and through mobile. And we'll use some automation features and security features. Some key requirements are also obviously some sort of login system with two-factor authentication. And we use role-based access control, which I'll get into a bit later, and have some sort of expiration alerts to alert whoever needs to know about the food management and when things need to be thrown out. Some non-functional requirements is that we needed to have a 99.9% uptime, some encrypted communications for security, and a responsive UI. Um, these are the requirements obviously include the donation system needs to be able to add or remove items and edit them and make donations. And then some other non-functional requirements is just have security and be secure. Make sure it's available, which is the 99% uptime is kind of the same thing. And the accessibility, you could fit responsive UI under there as well, as far and as also mobile accessibility. So the tech stack we used was the MERN stack, so MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js, and we used Prisma to connect our backend to MongoDB directly, and we used JWT authentication um, as well. So our major components is our backend API, which connects to our other services such as our database through Prisma. And we use Prisma so that if we need to pivot away from MongoDB, we can connect the Prisma to a different kind of database, and our backend will largely remain unchanged, um, even though we have changed to a new database. And then another service we have is our email API service to send those two-factor authentication messages to emails. Um, and then our front end is written in React and make calls to the backend API to manipulate data and do some things that you would like to do in our app. So why we did this, MERN is modular and scalable, so it will be able to scale as more people start using it. And Prisma helps maintain the data integrity, and the schema is the big thing, so we can pivot on database if we need to. And JWT and two-factor authentication helps with that security requirements. So some testing and tools we used. So there was a lot of manual testing when we implemented the backend through Postman. And this just allows us to make different API requests and store cookies when there's not really a front end yet. So we can test those backends and then before we start doing all the UI implementation as well. We have some units and integration testing and user acceptance testing as well. The tools we use GitHub, we use Figma for mockups, Postman for some testing, MongoDB, and GitHub Actions for our integration pipeline. And also in the GitHub Actions, that's where we have our some of our testing, which is done with some other frameworks as well inside of Node.js. Some challenges we had is the password reset feature was not completed. That's still pending. And then the setup on different machines for our program can be inconsistent, but we do have some sort of standard setup now through our integration pipeline that can't be followed, and that should make it a bit easier, but it's still not optimal. So our project status, we still have a fully functional login system and inventory system and role-based access control as well. Donation logging, expiration alerts, and reports can be generated as well. So this is will all be ready to be demonstrated before May 2nd, 2025. And a lot of our documentation is on our GitHub repo, and there's also setup instructions there as well. So some future work that we plan to complete is complete that password reset feature. And then we need to complete the full coverage tests for all features in the pipeline. Um, and then we also plan to add some more analytics tools for admins so they can uh, read the data and interpret what's going on in their system a bit better. And then additional features. There's not really an item usage system yet. Once an item's used, it's really just deleted out of the system. And there's a lot we could do there. It's well, it's logs for that. Some feedback surveys from volunteers and staff to uh, understand what could be changed. And then for people who make donations, a donating donation tracker would be a good feature as well. So that is the end of the presentation, and we can now take a look at some of our features in the actual app in a demo here. So we're going to first log in with an admin user. I'll delete this user so I can re-register. So when you're an admin user, you have access to all the features up here in the hotbar. So you can look at the inventory and see all these items and all the information about them, as well as changes information. And you can also delete things. And you can make donations as well. And you can make donations for other users as an admin. Well, that's not a feature for people who do not have the right role. And then this user management tab is exclusive only to admins as well. So we have a couple different roles. Employee, admin, volunteer, and donor is not really a role anymore because it doesn't really make sense in this hierarchy, right? You can be a donor while being one of these four as well. So it doesn't make sense to have them be exclusive. We have this Marcus donor. It should not be in this anymore, but it is. So now if I log out, we have two-factor authentication disabled for some of these accounts just for ease of use and testing. But when we make an account, we are required to use it by default, and there's not really a way to change it, turn it off unless you go directly into the database, which is kind of what we want. So if I go back here, I've got a verification code, um, and I can verify my email, and now I can log in. This will also require a authentication code as well here. Uh, Login. Once we're in, we'll see we are just a regular user, so we can make a donation as ourselves. But we don't really have any other ability to do anything. Um, a volunteer will be able to read the inventory, but they don't have the ability to click on it. So if I'm clicking now, I can't click on it and make changes to these, but I can go through and see where things are and do things as a volunteer. Well, an employee an employee can do the same thing as the admin, other than the tab for user management. And then let's have a look at our integration pipeline so far. So what this does is it fully sets up our app with the front end, back end, and MongoDB uh, database as well. And this allows us to run our tests. It also fills the database with some just some dummy data to uh, practice all of our functionality. So there is full coverage for the uh, all the backend API endpoints. There's already coverage for that, and we have coverage for the two-factor authentication sign-in and authentication for all user types. But we're still working on um, some of the item inventory management tests. I think that wraps up what we have so far.